welcome to a very special interview show of the Prode. Today, we turn our attention to a region at the heart of global concern, West Asia, where recently concluded escalations between Israel and Iran have reignited long standing tensions and raised critical questions about regional stability, international diplomacy, and global security. Israel and Iran remain at the center of regional tensions, with their long standing rivalry influencing broader security dynamics across West Asia. At the same time, shifting alliances, particularly the growing engagement between Israel and several Gulf states, are contributing to reshaping the strategic landscape. To help us navigate these complex dynamics and understand their implications for the future of the region and the broader international order, we are joined by Dr. Manjari Singh, Member Core Committee, Greater West Asia Forum India, and a subject matter expert at Center for Joint Warfare Studies. Dr. Singh, thank you so much for joining us and a very warm welcome to this show.
Thank you, Ritvij. Great to be on your show.
So I would like to begin the discussion by asking that in the aftermath of the recent Iran-Israel escalation, how do you assess the impact on the broader regional security architecture, especially in light of Israel's evolving ties with the Gulf states?
Right. If I have to talk about how the Middle East is emerging post the June war that happened between Israel and Iran, the issue is very, significant to understand that with the Arab nations, even though they have not outrightly supported either of the claims, I mean, they have not joined the bandwagon with the Iranians or with the Israelis. But it is very important to understand that the sectarian divide that they had with Iran was also very, intrinsic to their security architecture. And that was one of the reasons, when Arabs, over a period of time, they have had many security alliances in the region, whether it was a Saudi-led Islamic military alliance that they had forged in the 2000s, especially to fight ISIS, and also on the context of fighting with the proxy, wars with Iran, proxy actors of Iran. So basically, they have been very very insecure about the Iranian presence or in Iranian increasing presence in the region, so to say. So for them, this entire dynamics, the ballistic missile system that Iran was allegedly developing, and the nuclear aspect, both of them are very, security from the security perspective, very intrinsic policies. So from that angle, I feel that in a way they are relaxed, if I can say that they are relaxed, that the Israelis have taken down those projects, if not shut it down, but at least for many years it will be delayed. So in that sense, I think they are a bit relaxed on that. And when it comes to the normalization, the extension of Abraham Accord, I mean, very interesting thing that has happened is that recently, I think a week back, Saudi Arabia, for the first time, uh, it had its energy Ministry of Energy of Saudi Arabia. They had given a statement, released in a statement about how the IMEC is going to be IMEC centrality. They had talked about how IMEC is going to be important, and they're also continuing some dialogues with the Mediterranean partners, which is the European partners. So this is the very first time that Saudi Arabia is talking about IMEC and the entire dynamics, because in IMEC, Israel is also there. And IMEC means that there will have to be a normalization for, so therefore, this is a very positive step in that format, when you say that what happens to the Abraham Accord, what happens to the normalization, because IMEC cannot happen without a normalization between Saudi Arabia and Israel, right? So if they are talking about IMEC for the first time, especially their ministries, in official statement, which means that some kind of back channel diplomacy is already taking place, and some normalization will happen in the coming months, maybe.
Yeah, so now coming to Iran, and given Iran's continued support for groups and its ballistic missile as well as nuclear program, do you believe the current ceasefire can meaningfully hold, or is there more of a tactical pause before further escalations?
Yeah, I do believe that it is a pause. And like I said, that I think that all the partners, all the actors in this particular war, so to say, are taking a break because wars are becoming very expensive these days. I mean, you have to spend crores and millions to, shot a missile or even a drone. So in that sense, I think it, and they are smart actors, all three of them, especially, Israel and Iran in the region. They know that there is a long distance between Israel and Iran, which means that only ballistic missiles can be used against each other, which are very expensive. So if you keep on, and if both of them know that they are both a belligerent power in the region, they are both capable of hitting each other well. So in that sense, I feel that they're just taking a break, because they don't want to just have a useless war, because otherwise it is just a useless extension of war, which does not lead to any conclusion. So in that sense, because what we have seen is that Israel, even though it has been able to bomb those nuclear sites of Isfahan and Fordo and Natanz, but the problem is that the stockpiles have been shifted. So until unless those locations are figured out, I think they won't stop. Similarly, with US also same aspect, that they want the stockpiles to get destroyed, because otherwise, I mean, infrastructure can be built any day. For Iran, of course, it is again buying some time, because it wants to kind of, develop those nuclear weapons that it wants to. So, in that sense, I feel that they are all taking a break. It's not, the ceasefire is kind of not going to hold for a very long time, even though what I feel is that the kinetic war that has happened between the countries has already taken place. Now, this is the information warfare that is happening between the countries, like same case as India, Pakistan. Even though, like recently we saw, yeah, like I think it was yesterday or day before that Operation Mahadev was conducted by India, right? So what, which means that you have not stopped, you are seeking what you are seeking. So, in the same sense, what is happening here is that a pause has been taken place. It is a peace time, but then the information aspect, the intelligence aspect is already being, conducted by the countries, and they are working forward to kind of how to eliminate each other's, strong points. So that is what it is. So today's wars, they are always in gray zone. They are not clearly, or you can't say that this is a war. Okay, war has started, war has ended. It doesn't happen like that. It is war, kinetic form and non-kinetic form. It is a non-kinetic form that is existing right now.
Yeah, so with discussions of expanding international sanctions on Iran gaining momentum, what implications might this have for regional deterrence, especially for countries like Israel that view Iran's nuclear ambitions as an existential threat?
See, sanctions have not played a very crucial role when it comes to countries like Iran, because they are not any country. Iran is not just any country in the region. It is a regional power, and a very capable regional power, so to say. So even though there has been sanctions on Iran since 2003, when this nuclear deal was first, imposed on Iran, but the problem is that despite those sanctions, Iran has thrived. Iran has existed. Iran's technological, its ballistic missile systems, all of them have worked. Its trade with some of the friendly foreign countries have also remained the same. So that way, sanctions have not actually helped in deterring Iran's like ambitions, but at the same time they do play a role in terms of kind of limiting the role that Iran could play in the future. So that way it is helpful, but otherwise I don't feel that it works as a deterrence for Iran, because there are alternate routes, there are transit routes that are today in place, wherein countries who are under stress, who are, I mean, look at the case of Russia for that matter, right? So even though there are sanctions, even, but it is flourishing and it will survive. So similarly, for countries like Iran, who have great civilizational, great technological advancement and all of that, so they are going to survive, they are going to thrive, and sanctions are not the best way to kind of limit Iran's capabilities.
Yeah, and how do you analyze the role of external powers like China and Russia, and how do they benefit from the prolonged instability in West Asia? And to what extent are they enabling actors like Iran through arms sales, diplomatic cover, or even information warfare?
Right. So in that sense, the thing is that Iran and Russia recently they have shown. I mean, of course, Russia is an old power who has been interested in the region for a very long time. China since 2008 and particularly since 2013 because of its BRI has been very much interested in the region. And after 2020, we see that China is kind of strategically interested in the region. It wants to have a strategic footprint in the region, but they are not following the US way. They are not following the America way, wherein America, when the Cold War ended and it came out as a superpower, it kind of sort of I mean imagined itself as a security provider in the region. So that was the role that US was playing, and that was one of the reasons why it was invested in most of the wars in the region, whether it was Gulf War or any kind of war, or Arab Spring for that matter, or Arab uprising, as many people like to call it. So it was invested in those kind of wars in the region, too much invested, so to say. And that is one of the reason why America also wants to pivot away from the region now, because they are feeling that it is putting a lot of economic constraint on their exchequer. So they don't want to get involved in the regional conflicts. Uh, China's China's intervention in the region, or say so to say, China's approach to the region is very different. It is nature. Does not have a security aspect to it. So from that context, what say for economic aspects, stability is important. So any kind of war is going to play as a deterrent for China to invest in the region. Its BRI is a very important project to it. And there are other aspects of BRI also which are channelized in the region, very much in the Gulf countries as well as other parts of the countries or other part of the region. So that way, any kind of conflict, whether it is between Iran and Israel, whether it is between Iran and Arabs or Arabs and Israel, any kind of, or even for that matter, this Israel Palestine. So these kind of conflicts are detrimental to its economic aspirations. So it will not want to kind of want these kind of conflicts. On the other hand, it is not going to interfere also in the internal affairs of the countries, because that has been China's policy for a very long time. They are non-interventionist, they are non-prescriptives, as we are as Indians also like to play in the region. So that, and we saw it in this particular war, Iran and Israel. China, apart from releasing those statements wherein it condemned the war and all kinds of things, said certain things against Israel, they did not play a very crucial role in terms of mediating between the countries, or in terms of putting a hold to the war. So that way they did not enter, because they already knew if they are going to be there, it is all going to be about US and China. And I don't feel that they are ready to kind of confront US at this position, because US, whether you like it or not, it is still a power, and a greater power than China, right? So in a third country, in a third region, I don't think China would like to play like that, like to play against US in a region like this. And on the other hand, I think China was also a factor why this war was not escalated. That I'll give to China, because if you look at this war, it is a aerial warfare. Only missiles were used, only air fights were used in this war. It is not a all three services were not used. Navy, of course, not. And then army was also not used, right? So the only factor that was possible, and was that it had come to that extent that Iran was thinking about closing the Strait of Hormuz. So that was one aspect, that they were this time, at least since 1950s, they have been talking about closing the Strait of Hormuz whenever these kind of situations have occurred. But this time they were very serious about it. And of course, the parliament had already discussed about it, that they are going to, close the Strait of Hormuz and all of that. And both Israelis and Americans had taken that into consideration. And there were certain people who spoke to me, both from the Israeli and the American side, and they asked that what will India do in case Iran closes the Strait of Hormuz. So what I'm trying to say is that similar kind of interaction they might have had with other countries also, with experts from other countries as well, that what would those countries do? So if Strait of Hormuz was closed by Iran, that would be a situation wherein China would have also entered the war, but not from the Iranian side, against the Iranian side. And I think that is something that Iran did not want. It did not want a friend like China to be a opposer of Iran, because if you look at it, if you nearly 60 to 80% of China's trade passes through Strait of Hormuz. Same for us, 60% of our trade goes through Hormuz. So these kind of things, I think it worked as a deterrent that way. It did not escalate the war, because if China factor was not involved, if Russia factor was not involved, Strait of Hormuz would have been closed for sure.
Yeah, and how do you analyze the role of countries like India in this whole situation? Do you think India can play an active role in de-escalating tensions in the Middle East?
I mean, because we have good relations with both the countries. I mean, we have good relations with Iran. At the same time, we have very good relations with Israel also, right? And in fact, Iran was the first country with whom we signed our defense cooperation, our strategic cooperation in 2003. So that means Iran is important to us. And similarly, Israel, because of the kind of developments that are taking place between India and Israel, especially in defense and agriculture and all those areas, counterterrorism, cyber security, all those areas of cooperation. So these two are very important actors, not just in the region but overall for India, right? So that ways, I don't think that India would want to play favorites in this region, and that is one of the reasons why India stayed back. It abstained from most of the developments that were taking place. It had condemned the war, escalation of the war, but it had not kind of, I mean, of course, the prime minister also talked to the president of Iran, and he also spoke to Prime Minister Netanyahu about non-escalating the war. But apart from that, I don't think that we want to play a role from in de-escalating the aspects. The only thing that India would do is to kind of look at IMEC more positively. So because it's a development project, because it is something that will happen only if there is no conflict, so that way I think along with the Arab countries, along with the other actors in the region, India would like to propagate about these developments, so that the countries in the region and outside, the European powers, the Americans, and all of them, they can de-escalate the situation. But directly, I don't think that India will play that kind of a role in the region.
Yeah, and looking ahead, what policy mechanisms, whether regional defense pacts, Arab-Israel security coordination, or international deterrence frameworks, could institutionalize stability in the region?
See, I have been saying this for a very long time, and like last year also, like there was a um, closed door meeting that happened in Abu Dhabi. That was the first meeting which happened on IMEC. It was a multi-stakeholder meeting, and in that, I had also raised this point that security is going to be very important, and normalization, mere normalization of relationships will not work. I mean, even if Arabs and Israelis normalize relations just for the sake of IMEC, that is not going to work until unless there is an exclusive defense or exclusive intelligence sharing happening between the regions, especially to protect the infrastructure that they are building together. So in that context, they may be looking at some defense cooperations at some including all the countries in the region who are part of the IMEC, the European partners, American partners, as well as India. But the problem is that they will have to have, for instance, with India, we have defense and intelligence sharing and counterterrorism cooperations with the Gulf countries. We have similar arrangement with the Israelis also, right? But these two do not have it amongst themselves. So until unless the region itself has a intelligence sharing or a security framework for that matter, it is not going to happen. So to solidify this IMEC, I think in the pretext of solidifying IMEC, they should look at those security aspects. strengthening of those security aspects. So in that context, yes, that is possible. And I feel that in the coming years, they will work on this, if not today, but definitely tomorrow. Because if you look at in these corridors, they are all developed by private sectors, most of them. And private sectors are not going to invest in an infrastructure which is going to be, very prone to conflicts, and not just regional conflicts. Now the problem is with the non-state actors also. Like, we know what is the capability of the Houthis right now, right? They have naval capability as well as warfare capabilities. So with those kind of capabilities and those kind of improvised weapons that they use, IEDs and all of that, I don't think that states are the only problems in the region. It is the non-state actor also who is going to be a threat. So in those aspects, they all should come together and develop a security framework.
Yeah, and what role do you foresee for multilateral institutions such as the United Nations or regional organizations like the OIC in de-escalating future Israel-Iran tensions and promoting a rule-based order in East Asia?
See, I'll tell you one thing. The problem is not new, and it is not something which is happening in in any region. This is a very deep intrinsic problem that is existing between Israel and Iran. I mean, Israel and Iran are the two actors who were the friends in the earlier times, right? Iran was one of the first Muslim countries to recognize Israel as a country, right? So that ways, they have been friends. They have been intelligence sharing between Mossad and Savak, the intelligence agencies of both the countries, in the earlier times. But today the problems are very much, because see, the problem is not about de-escalation. The problem is in the psyche itself, right? So for Iran, they do not recognize Israel as a country itself. They do not want Israel to be on the map of Middle East. That is the idea. The kind of sloganeering that you will see in Iran, or the flags that they share, what they say is death to Israel and death to America, right? So little Satan and the larger Satan, that's what they call America and Israel. And they believe that Israel should be obliterated from the entire map of Middle East. So if that is the idea, then I think that it is very difficult to fight with that kind of a mindset. And that is one of the reasons why Israel has not come to terms with negotiating with Hamas also. I mean, you can see the kind of number of ceasefires that have been declared, but have not solidified as of yet. As many as three ceasefires have been happened between Israel and Hamas, but none of them have, actually solidified in the war context. So, what is the problem? The problem is this only, because if somebody has to talk to somebody else, there has to be some, the table should be same, no? And they should come and speak at the same table. But here the problem is that Iran does not want to come to the table and speak to Israel, right? So that's the idea. And they do not believe in the state of Israel. So if that is the idea, and they have, see, the entire, if you look at the forces, if you look at the celebrations that they have, like the Al Quds force, which is a extra, regional territorial force of IRGC in Iran, and your Major General Soleimani, the erstwhile major, he was the commander of that. Al Quds, Quds is what? Palestine. That force was itself named after Palestine. So, which means that they are very much invested in that concept of Greater Palestine where there is no Israel. So, if that is the situation, then I don't think it is possible to bring the two countries at the same level. But of course, if the Arabs want, if the Arabs, but see, the problem is that even the Arabs and the Iranians have a very superficial relationship today. They don't have a very cordial relationship. It's a superficial relationship. But in future, if they want to actually make this region development oriented, all the three actors, the Arabs, the Iranians, and the Israelis, that is the time when they can all sit together and solve the crisis of the region. Otherwise, external forces, I don't think UN has been very I mean, UN in many cases has been redundant. I mean, its importance is going down. We see, and many of the times, I mean, look at the October war. It is still going on, no? It is still extending. So UN, in that sense, has not been a very, important actor in this region, and so has been the OIC, because OIC, again, if you look at it, it is majorly Arabs. So Iranians or the Shias are in minority. So in that sense, there is no consensus, no single consensus. So that way, I don't think that the regional. So that's what I'm saying. That a security framework wherein everybody is a partner, every country in the region is a partner. I think that kind of a framework is better than having these existing organizations to play a major role in solving the crisis.
Yeah, and previously you talked about Houthis. So, what has been the role of non-state actors, particularly Hezbollah, Houthis, and Hamas, in complicating traditional state-to-state diplomacy in the region?
See, if I can speak from the hybrid warfare concept. So, hybrid warfare concept has come through because of the upcoming of the non-state actors itself. Israel was the first country that ever fought a hybrid warfare in 2006 when it had fought a war with Hezbollah, right? So, so if you look at it, that was the first hybrid warfare fought ever. That was the time when the entire world was invested in conceptualizing what hybrid warfare means, because before that Israel was fighting wars with the states, the Arab countries, right? So it had fought four wars: 1948, 1956, 1967, and 71. These were the four wars that it was fighting with the Arab countries. Now it is a different war when you fight with a state actor, because state actors are rational actors, right? So they will not sought to unconventional methods. They will be using conventional methods, and which is very easy to understand. So when you develop a doctrine based on the conventional methods that the state actors are going to employ. So that's what Israel was doing, right? But after 2006, I mean during 2006, they were surprised by a attack by a non-state actor, which had all kinds of weapon systems which a state actor has. So that is what hybrid warfare is, wherein a non-state actor behaves like a state actor and more, right? It has both the aspects. So there is a guerrilla warfare also. There is all kinds of information warfare also, all kinds of systems plus the state capabilities, where there is hypersonic missiles, ballistic missiles, all kinds of things are being used, right? So that way, non-state actors have further complicated the type of warfare that is being fought now.
Yeah. So
So this
finally,
complication, yeah.
yeah.
So
So
this complication is something that kind of it complicates the entire system, because, like I said, a state is a rational actor. So if a state is fighting against a state, then the international community can intervene. UN can intervene, right? All those regional actors that you talked about, they can intervene. Countries can intervene. But when a state is fighting a non-state actor, who intervenes? Nobody can intervene, no? So
yeah.
that is a problem that exists,
So
fighting with a non.
yeah. So finally, stepping back from immediate escalations, what could be a realistic long-term vision of security architecture in West Asia? One that also includes Israel and Iran in dialogue rather than confrontation.
See, if I can be very honest, this is one region where security framework is not very easy to develop, because this is one region wherein the former enemies can become friends in no time, and friends can become enemies in no time. And like, I'll give you a very recent example, the case of Syria, right? When Bashar al Assad was there ruling Syria, that was the time when Iran was supporting Syria. It was supporting the Assad regime, and Turkey was the one which was supporting the rebel groups, along with Americans and Russians. Now there is a change in the toppling of, change in the regime in Syria, wherein the rebels have now become the regime, the HTS under Al-Shara. So Al-Shara is heading the Syrian regime. Now, technically, Al-Shara regime should be an enemy to Iranian regime at present, right? Because they were fighting opposite, uh, forces in Syria. But surprisingly, the attack that has happened between Al-Shara's regime and Israel, the recent one wherein Israel jumped in to secure the Druze community, at that point in time, Iran had extended a friendship treaty to Al-Shara, the former enemy, right? So and he's a Sunni, right? So in that extent, what I'm trying to say is that if again Iran becomes a friend of Syria, and if again Syria becomes a proxy for Iran, then again the same thing. Then again Israel will have to fight against Syria to declutter it, and then uh, secure its core. So that way I'm saying that it's a very difficult situation that way. But like I said, that if all the countries together are just aiming at development, because economic development, like the Arabs are now. I mean, under the Crown Prince and the Prime Minister, MBS, you see that they are very serious about their Vision 2030, which means that they are looking at diversification of their economy. They are not just looking at the oil economy, they are diversifying from that. So if those are the aspirations, Dubai, UAE, we already see that they have a plan for becoming a economic zone. So if those are the aspirations, the economic development, I think under that circumstance, all the countries can come together and develop a framework. Otherwise, I feel it's very because it's all about the regional power. Who's going to be the regional power? So if that is the case, and because Iran has been a very old, civilization, that is the only civilization existing, if you ask me, right now, and Turkey to some extent. So that way, it's very difficult to develop a comprehensive framework. But yeah, economic is something that the countries can come together to.
Yeah, Dr. Singh, thank you so much for your valuable insights and for sharing and for helping us unpack the complex and evolving dynamics of West Asia. As we have heard tonight, the recent escalation between Israel and Iran is more than a bilateral standoff. It's a window into a rapidly shifting regional order where diplomacy, deterrence, and dialogue must be in tandem. Thank you so much once again for joining the Prode.
Thank you, Ritvij.